there gamers, it's Professor Meg, and this is a preview of Sunrise at the Studio. That's right, this is a preview of Sunrise at the Studio by Pencil First Games. Now I have a few things for us to get into before we do the general preview here. First of all, this is Sunrise at the Studio. This is the spotlight of the video, but I have a few other things to talk about. First of all, thank you to Pencil First Games for sponsoring this video, and they have a current Kickstarter. The link is down below. The Kickstarter is for Sunrise at the Studio, but there are two other things that are part of the campaign. There are these little guys next to me, so you are also able to check these out within the campaign, so I'm just going to quickly mention them, but then I'll get into Sunrise at the Studio. First, we have Floriferous, the Pocket Edition. This is a small little pocket edition of the game Floriferous, which is a competitive game where players will be going along these different columns, fighting for the best garden flower pieces, along with different scoring things that will affect it along the way, and whoever can build the most beautiful garden wins the game. And there is also Snowfall Over the Mountains. Now, this is a solo game that I really enjoyed where you are laying different tiles. So you have different cards that you'll use to know how the tiles will score. For example, you have different iconography that is on all of these tiles, such as the rabbit and how the rabbit scores, or the different bushes that are placed. So for the rabbits, it would be their little footprints that are on these tiles, and you are just basically placing all these tiles for the best points possible based on the different scoring of the cards that are set. Now, both of these are also part of the current Kickstarter, but today we are here to talk about Sunrise at the Studio, which is a game for 2 to 4 players, but there is a solo mode for this as well. I was not able to check out the solo mode for Sunrise at the Studio, but I was able to play it competitively, so that's what we're going to take a look at today. Jumping right into it, we are mid-game here, so you can see there is quite a lot going on. But players are going to have their own respective areas, and that's going to show you a lot about what you're going to be doing in the game. So you have your own little play area, and you are going to be working on projects and then completing them. To do so, you're going to be drafting different cards. So this has us at the end of the round, but let's pretend that these are like this. These are our resource cards, and you'll be drafting them very uniquely throughout the game to be able to gain the different resources and create your projects. Everyone has certain starting projects, but after that you'll be able to draft the projects you want, get them down in front of you, and then start putting resources in them to have them score for you at the end of the game. There are also goals where players are trying to meet certain conditions. For example, this is having 3 different clay types, and you can see that this player does have 3 projects built, one with each different clay type, so they were able to put their progress tracker on that card. Now, the drafting is very unique in this game, and at first I was not sure if I was going to like it, and then immediately from the first round I absolutely loved it. So what happens is there are these resource cards, and you will change this deck depending on the number of players that are playing the game. So if there are only 2 of you, you'll have a certain number, and then 3 and 4 you will add more cards into this deck. The reason being is for a 2-player game there are 24 cards, and for a 3-player game there are 36, and for a 4-player game that means there must be 48. So for the 3-player game, that basically means that you'll be drafting with cards with groups of 4 in your hand 3 times. You'll do that over the course of 3 different days, which you can see right over here. I actually jumped the gun a little bit, and we should be here for now, but this is how you will track each round, and each round, again, will be the 3 sets of drafting for each player. So to begin a round of drafting, you would shuffle up these resource cards and deal 12 to each of the players. After that, each player would draw 4 at a time and decide how they want to draft these cards. This is what is very unique about the game, and I will show you this now. So let's just do this with hands of 4 cards each, just for the example. But normally you would divvy out this entire deck of cards, and players would be drawing from the top of their own personal pile and be using these different drafting mechanics. So everyone has these same 3 actions available to them. They're down at the bottom of these player boards, and you'll see that they'll be able to draft in different ways. So for example, if our blue player was looking at these 3, that is 2 that are random, 2 that are anything you want. This would be a certain type of kiln for you to cast into, and so for this player, they don't really need any because they already have that spot filled on the card that they're trying to fill. So this player would likely want to keep these 2 and get rid of the other 2. Now there are 3 ways that you have available to drafting to you. You can choose to keep 3 and give 1 to the player to your left. You can choose to keep 2, give 1 to the player to your left and 1 to the player to your right. Or you can choose to discard 2, give 1 to the player to your right, and keep 1 for yourself. Now, looking at my other players, this person does need this card. However, this person doesn't need anything. So, that That is tricky. I think my best bet is to give this one to them, discard both of these, and take just one wild for myself. So that means I'll be able to place a resource here, and I'm one step closer to making my pot. But, and we'll fill in this little triangle here to show that we did that. However, these two players would be making similar choices. So they would be looking through their resource cards and deciding from those 3 actions what they would want to do. So to go over them again, when you're drafting, you're able to keep 3 and pass 1. You're able to keep 2 and pass 1 to each of your opponents, or keep 1, discard 2, and pass 1. This makes it so that you're able to discard the cards that you really don't want to send to anyone else, such as wilds, but if you use that action right away, then you'll maybe be giving better things to people in future turns because you're not sure what's going to come up in your personal deck. Each player marks each action that they take, so as they take these different drafting actions, you will start filling this up so that you can't take the same drafting action twice. At the end of the 3 drafting rounds, 1 day will pass and players will be able to complete their projects. So for example, if this project now had this many resources paid into it, I would be able to complete my project. To do so, I would discard these markers off of it, flip this card over, and put it on this side of my mat instead, showing that I'm now scoring 8 points, and it provides these types of things for me for any of these goals that I may be trying to score. Now, every time you complete a project, you're able to make a few choices. You can either take another project and one of these advantage cards, which we haven't gone through yet. You're able to take 2 project cards, or instead you could choose 2 of the projects and keep those, or you could draw 3 advantage cards and pick 1. Now, you can't take advantage cards if you don't have a current project, which means the first project you finish, you would need to take 2 projects if you want to start working toward advantage cards. But the last round of the game, you're also able to take those regardless of what you have finished, and they're very, very helpful. Let's take a look at the advantage cards. So some of these advantage cards are going to be things that you can build. This is something that you would gain, and you would put resources onto it to be able to complete this project. You'd get the points at the end for scoring. However, these do not help you towards these challenges. So you would be able to take that. Another example would be these coffee beans. Coffee beans we will get to in just a second, but these will help you toward coffee bean scoring. And there are others like this, which will also be additional endgame scoring. That if at the end of the game you have these 3 different types of projects, you would be able to score 3 points for them. Now, the coffee is very fun, and this is just a few points that you're able to grab at the end of the game, but you can get straight coffee beans from this advantage deck. The other thing you can do is some of the projects that you build will provide coffee beans for you, and at the end of the game, whoever has the most coffee beans gets the coffee cup and 3 points. You can see here that this player also has a completed project with a coffee bean. They are pretty rare, but very useful when you are able to get them. At the end of these 3 days, after players have completed all of their projects, applied as much as they can to the different scoring goals, and fought over the coffee cup, players will add up their scores and see whoever has the most points, and that player will win. Overall, I felt that Sunrise at the Studio felt very puzzly, where you're trying to figure out what pieces to take and what you want to make to both work towards the end goals, if you get any of the advantage cards that give you certain endgame scoring, and just trying to make as many different things as possible with the resources that are available to you. Something that I thought was really fun was the drafting mechanic. You are trying to get what you need for yourself, but you're also making sure that you're not giving too much to your opponent because you don't want to have them finish their projects before you or have more points than you, so you're very nervous about what to give them and planning for yourself. It was kind of tricky to keep in mind that I would also be gaining cards during these rounds as well, that I would plan for the resources in my hand, and you also have to keep in mind that you'll be gaining extra resources, which one final thing I didn't explain is there is a 2-for-1 ratio. If you ever can't place your resources down on the board, there is this area here where you hold on to them, and you can always turn 2 of these into any one resource that you need, so you're never locked out completely of what you have, and players can't stop you completely from being able to build your projects. They can just make it cost more and more. This has been a preview of Sunrise at the Studio. Thank you all for watching, and huge thank you to Pencil First Games for sponsoring this video. You can check out the Kickstarter crowdfunding link down below, and don't forget that these 2 little guys are also included in the campaign. So if you're interested in Pocket Edition Floriferous or Snowfall Over the Mountains, you can also see those as well. I'm Professor Meg, and I will see you next time on the Board Game Code channel. Bye!